So recently it was brought to my attention that Whatnot removed the closed captioning for good reasons. It was music causing trouble, which isn't really helpful for anybody who needs the closed captions. So we did a little bit of playing around and thinking between a couple of us. Shout out to Rocket Start Exchange, by the way. Appreciate you getting behind me on this, helping me out too. So what you can do is if you have OBS, you have a way to implement these yourself. So over here we'd have our screen here. Obviously it's black just for the sake of testing this out, but first thing you'll need to do, close OBS and do any updates if you need to. This works on the current version 28 plus. So you're going to go over here to the Rat with a Compiler GitHub page. Link will be available in the description. So what we're going to do over here, once we get over to Rat's Git page, we go to the releases, open that guy up. So go in here and you'll download the plugin specific to you. If you're not sure how to do any plugin installation, Rat actually has a nifty little install guide for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So that'll do it. Now, there are some stipulations on using this plugin. You don't just plug it in and go. There are things we found out doesn't exactly work 100%. So once you get that plugged in, all set up, now we'll launch OBS. And at the top, you'll have a tools menu. It's going to obviously look a little different in Windows. Here I'm running a Mac. That's for a specific reason. I'll show you all later. So maybe a beta closed caption toward the top, you want to make sure that is off. If you are using it or you've tried it in the past, turn it off. It will break OBS and crash it. But you just relaunch it, it's fine. But we're going to go to our closed caption options here. This is for the plugin. You should notice that. You also notice this is available now. Into our settings. I'm going to enable our captions here. We need to pick our source. Find whatever. If you have OBS, you may have a specific track it's dumped to. You may have a certain source it's being used. You may have whatever your setup is. It's going to be a little different for every person. So make sure you find this. Get that set up. Pick your language. If you do have, this works for basically any language too. So this is actually great for anybody. You can output to however you see fit. How many lines of text you want. If you want to add punctuation, which I like, capitalization. If you want to be normal English, caps, lowercase, pick that. Forcing line breaks, I don't recommend, because if you're only doing 3 lines, if you're doing multiple sentences and it's breaking it, you can lose some things. And of course the timeout. So if you don't say anything for 15, it will just start removing text. If you want to save any transcripts of anything you've said, it's an option. Captions. Now this is where we kind of get into the bread and butter of this. So we're going to need to add a text box. Name it however you want. I'm just going to be lazy. So this is where we have our settings. In Mac, Mac and Linux are going to be a little more restricted on this, so I will add an extra couple of steps on here for what you need to do there. But one thing I will say, in Windows, there is your colors, your gradients, and there's a text background. Make sure you put the text background on, even if you're putting it at a low visibility. It will help you out a ton later for reasons we'll actually see here shortly. So now we have our text field. I'm not sure where it went. We're going to do this guy and say we'll move it here. That would be below all of our view count, our totals, everything else up here. So everything's set in there. If you want to add any text replacements, feel free to do so. If you just add that and you don't notice that, please go ahead, delete, add text to output, and select your new one. Now we should have working text. And it should be outputting to our handy dandy little text box over here, which would be a part of your virtual camera. Obviously you want to set this up in the middle, but for the sake of this video, we'll move it. It's not 100% accurate every single time. The other thing you'll notice, you may have a little bit of disconnect with some of this. It also helps if you make sure you're on the correct language. Yeah, make sure you're definitely on the correct language. Otherwise, you're going to start trying to speak Afrikaans. Please don't touch that unless you absolutely need to. But just to show you how fickle this thing can be, that's, you know. Now, like I said, it isn't there. Like, to show you a pickle. Obviously, I didn't say that. I said fickle, but it's enough to get the message across for anybody who needs closed captions. Make sure you enunciate really well. It will help go a long way. Now, the other thing is, and this is why I said, do not just put this plug in and go. The thing we figured out the hard way, if you have these settings, there's something we learned the hard way. I was mentioning, sorry, I had a phone call, interrupt my recording. So, if you don't have these open, it will not work. And if that doesn't work, then you're gonna have a bad time. And you'll probably rack your brain against the wall for a while trying to figure out why the heck is this happening to me? Why doesn't it work? I should just be able to close it. Well, it's because you closed the preview window and it won't work properly. So the next thing we're going to have is, and this is why I noticed, or I mentioned this, for Windows having the background color. Obviously, white text looks great on a black key here, but as soon as we do showing this, you can't read this. This isn't something you read. If you're showing off these boards trying to sell revives, you're not getting anywhere with anybody who needs closed captioning. So in the case of Windows, make sure you do a background, but for anybody not using those things, we're going to take our text here, and we're going to add, not from there, add a color source. Make sure you pick a complementary color. So the one you just had, I would say go to the alpha. You can test this out at different levels. We have our text, we're going to have a color. What color to be below text? I'm going to select these. And we are going to group selected items, and we'll put these together. And we make sure before you do this too, before you group anything really, you may go a little bit to get these in the right spots. We're going to take that color gradient. Now I have these grouped together. Now you'll be able to resize them however you need to, but you'll have that nice little gradient back there. And honestly, I wouldn't mind putting it behind the chat sometimes just as a test, but it's something you can play with if you want, adding a color at the gradient or a transparent color source. So that will eliminate that issue. So make sure you add your color source, make sure you do your background text, and very much make sure this is open, or you're going to have a really bad time. It's not going to work, and you're going to be going, why did you do this to me, Bard? But hey, make sure you pass this along. I'd really appreciate it for everybody. It's not for me to, I'm not looking to get anything out of this. I'm purely just trying to help out friends like D3 and 40 from the zoo community. Those guys they lost that feature, and when I found out, it hurt me. So, here we are. Uh, yeah, appreciate everybody. You want to check me out on Whatnot? I'm hoping to stream again, get some retro games going, get some other stuff going, maybe get some zoo, some Pokemon, whatever we can get our mitts on. But that'll do it for this. Thanks, everybody.